In this video, I'm going to be breaking down exactly how much profit I made on almost $300,000 in sales during the month of November. Currently, it's December 12th, 2023, and I finally am done categorizing all of my books, so I want to go through all of the revenue and expenses to show you all the ins and outs of a wholesale dropshipping business. To get started, let's go over the software that I use to keep track of all of this. Currently, I'm using a bookkeeping software called Bench. I will be switching in 2024. However, I will be finishing my books for 2023 with this company. Jumping straight into it, my total revenue for the month was $293,969.22. However, that's just the revenue, and I wish that was the money that I keep, but I also have to factor in things such as the sales tax, which the platforms collect and then they remit on my behalf, so I don't see any of that money. And then I also have to factor out returns, which are just items that I get returned to me or that get returned to my manufacturer if it's a dropship order. The other two lines of income are cashback from credit cards. Normally, all of my points are transferred to airlines as well as partners, as that's the best way to maximize their value. However, in the month of November, I took back some cashback from my credit card. So that you'll see right here in these two different lines, I just have to categorize the other one. This leaves me with a net revenue of $260,083.41. Let's go ahead and let's break that down a little bit further. So in the month of November, I had my best month yet on Etsy, and this was by far my biggest platform. I did $126,883.44. This was not a normal month for me. I think before this, my biggest month on Etsy was around $40,000. However, 2 years back, I noticed there were 4 stores that were selling Christmas items, which were very similar to items that my wholesale suppliers had, and these shops were killing it. One shop was doing almost $500,000 during the month of December, so I decided that I was just going to create a separate store and list those exact same items, except I was going to do it better SEO, better photos, etc. I'm not dropshipping any of the items. I am going ahead and I'm having the item shipped to me, and then I am repackaging it, and I am also shipping it out to customers, which is why my shipping expenses are so high, because this is not dropshipping. Breaking this down a little bit further, you can see that I had total sales of $3,845, which was $132,000, but I did have a few refunds, and then also the sales tax, which gets remitted for the states. And then I had all of my fees. So this is going to include listing fees, transaction fees, processing fees, and then I have a little bit of marketing. So I don't run any ads on Etsy. It's probably something that if I had done, I could have doubled, if not tripled my sales. And then I also have shipping, which was, again, my biggest expense. My second biggest platform was Amazon, and I did almost $109,000 in the month of November. This was also one of my biggest months on Amazon, and this was a mixture of dropshipping as well as FBM and FBA. Currently, I would say I'm around 10 to 15% FBA. However, I had a ton of items shipped to me, and I was also doing a bunch of FBM orders during November for Amazon as well. So items that I was selling on Etsy, I was also selling on Amazon, and I also had a bunch of separate items that I was just constantly having shipped to me, and I was shipping it out the same day as I was getting the orders from the suppliers. Roughly 50% of this was drop shipping, which is something that I want to scale up a lot more, because with drop shipping, I do not need to be going to the post office. I do not need to be packaging all of these boxes. I do not need to get a warehouse. I also don't need to pay people to help me package them. So this year was crazy. I was doing almost 500 orders a day. And with that, it was just too much time. So next year, I'm going to be focusing a lot more on dropshipping or Amazon FBA. At the very least, someone also recommended that I can use a prep center, which is something that I do want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and I might either use a prep center where I'll ship the items to them and then they ship them out to my customers and they'll prep them, or I'll ship the items to Amazon FBA and I'll use Amazon's merchant fulfillment center to ship it out to customers on Etsy or eBay. The other platforms I sell on are eBay, Walmart, and my website, which I did roughly like 20-something thousand on all of those three. And then I have a bunch of small websites like Bonanza, TikTok shops, and Facebook Marketplace, which I did a minuscule amount of sales on. Now let's talk about expenses. My single biggest expense in my business was $143,000, and that was for my brand new yacht that I just bought. It's going to be the company yacht. I'm just joking. This was my cost of goods sold. So these were all the items that I had bought. This was actually kind of low for this month, and that is because I had bought a lot of items in the previous month in October. So if we look at the books for October, it would show that this number was a lot higher. So Bench uses a cash-based accounting system, which means that they count the numbers on your books for that month whenever you go ahead and you buy the inventory or whenever you get the sale. It's not an accrual-based accounting system, which means they don't count the cost of the inventory once you sell the item. They count it as soon as you buy it. So I can buy an item this month and then I might sell it in 2 or 3 months. However, I take on the expense during the month in which I bought it. So let's go over the operating expenses. So I had operating expenses of $92,000 or 93, and this was broken down in $886, which I am going to have to create a new category for this or tell Bench, and they will create it. And this is going to be the payment for my storage unit. I did have to go ahead and get a storage unit for the month of November since my garage was way too full. I had a reimbursement from a bank ATM. I'm not sure what that is. Next, I had a business meal, which was $135. So this is usually actually a lot higher. It's around $500 every month. But I guess this month I'm cutting and the bulk is off. So this was only $135. Next, I had my independent contractor expenses. And this is actually wrong. This should be only around $2,000 or $2,500 because I think this includes my salary. And I pay myself a salary of $8,000. This is a way that you can save taxes once your business starts to grow. So I'm an LLC, but in the state of New Jersey, I'm taxed as what's called an S Corp. So I can pay myself a salary. And then after all the amount of the salary that I pay, anything after that in profit is paid out through me through distributions. So that might have sounded a little bit complicated. I'm not a tax professional, but that is just how it's broken down and how I've hired other people to advise me to give me tax advice so that I pay less taxes legally. Next, I have my business insurance. So I need insurance to sell on Amazon. I need insurance to sell on Wayfair, as well as other marketplaces. Next, I have my interest expense. So this was interest that I paid on loans. I did take out loans in the month of August, as well as other months just to go ahead and have capital that I can buy inventory with. Next, I also had license and fee expense. I had a marketing and advertising expense of $561. So this is actually a little bit off. I think some of the merchant fees are supposed to be in here because I did have some fees on Etsy and I also had some fees on Amazon. And with Etsy, when you get a breakdown or you get the statement every month, it doesn't always categorize it really well. So I just need to have the bench team go through that. Next, I had my merchant fee expense. So the merchant fee expense are all the fees that I pay to the platforms. This includes all of the fees that I paid to Etsy, including listing fees, payment fees, and then also it includes Amazon fees like the $40 a month subscription or any of the fees that I pay for FBA fees or just the 15% fee that it costs to sell an item. Next, I have my office supply expense. So this was a lot higher this month. This is going to include boxes, bubble wrap. It's going to include masks, gloves, whatever it took to ship out items. So this was almost $2,200 or $2,100. So it's not going to be like this every month, but it was a little higher for this month just because of how many packages I had to ship out. Next, I had postage and shipping, which was by far my biggest expense. I paid $37,000, and this was an expense that I could have shrunk down tremendously. So I'm still learning about how to go ahead and get the cheapest postage and the best rates for the products that I'm shipping. I'm not shipping normal products. Some of the products I'm shipping are upwards of like 35 or 36 inches long. They're highly irregular. So with this, I'm learning about the best ways to purchase it. Currently, I was purchasing on Etsy directly from them as well as Amazon. Then I was using Vico, which is Amazon software, in order to go ahead and get 5% back. But I also have an account with UPS as well as FedEx, and I have now an account manager with both of those. So they are going to be giving me far better rates, and this number should be going down a lot in the future months. Next, I had professional service expense. So this is the money that I pay to Bench, as well as it's also money that I pay to any professional services. Next, I have software and web hosting expense. So this is going to include all of my software like Keepa. It's going to include my repricer. It's going to include any software really that I use to run my business. So I do pay a lot. $2,500 for my business is pretty high. However, I am still paying a bill for a software that I don't use. I got locked into a software. I can't give the name. However, I was not able to cancel in time and I don't use it for my business. I still have to pay out $500 every month. So once that's done in December, I don't have to see that on the books anymore. And lastly, we have my training and education. So this was $247 for a course I bought. And then we have travel and transportation expenses, which was $149. Again, this could be higher or lower depending on if I need to travel. So that gives me a net profit of $24,180.55 for the month of November. So this is not money that goes directly into my pocket. I'm not going to be putting it all on black. This is money that I can go ahead and I can use to grow my business because again, I do pay myself a salary. So I do pay myself $8,000 a month for salary. And then I like to keep a lot of my money in my business, or I like to go ahead and I like to see the best way to use it. Should I take it in a distribution? Should I go ahead and buy more inventory? Should I use it for a different business venture? So this is just the net profit for November with all the expenses totaled against all of my revenue. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This was an insight into my business, and my business has changed a lot over the years. Currently, I'm not doing as much drop shipping as I would like. I am shipping out a lot more FBA because my suppliers ship to FBA for me, and I'm able to go ahead and get more profit on items that I was dropshipping before by sending those items into Amazon. But who knows, that might change because Amazon's fees are changing. So the business is always changing. The goal is just to adapt and to keep your business afloat. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them down below, or you can message me on Instagram. Be sure to also go ahead and join the Wholesale Facebook group, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.